The day I signed the divorce papers, she didn't even look at me. Not once. She sat across the table like I was just another form she needed to get through. Pen tapping, eyes sharp, impatient. When the lawyer slid the final agreement toward her, she smiled. That small, satisfied smile I used to think was confidence. Now I know it was victory in her mind. "I'll take the house, the car, and the joint savings," she said calmly. "You can keep whatever's left." The lawyer glanced at me, waiting for resistance. I didn't give any. I just nodded. "Fine," I said. That was the moment she believed she had won everything. What she didn't know was, I had already made sure she would. We weren't always like this. There was a time when I thought she and I were untouchable. I met her in my late 20s, when I was still building my career and sleeping on a mattress that barely counted as furniture. She was bright, ambitious, and knew exactly how to make a room notice her without trying too hard. We got married young, maybe too young. But at the time it felt right. We built a life piece by piece, first a rented apartment, then a car, then the house she now so proudly claimed as hers. I remember the day we bought it. She cried when we got the keys. "Our home," she whispered. I believed her. The change didn't happen overnight. It never does. That's the part people misunderstand about breakups. They imagine a single moment when everything shatters. But in reality, it's thousands of small fractures you ignore until the structure gives up. She started coming home later. First it was work. Then it was friends. Then it was no explanation at all. Her phone turned into something she guarded like it contained state secrets. Notifications stopped appearing on screen. Passwords changed. Conversations moved into whispers or silence when I walked into a room. I noticed everything. I just stopped commenting. Because I had started noticing something else too. Something she never paid attention to. Numbers. I work in finance. Not the glamorous kind people see in movies, but the kind where patterns tell you more truth than words ever will. I saw the spending changes first. Restaurants she never mentioned, rides at odd hours, small transactions that didn't fit her schedule. At first, I didn't want to believe it. Then I didn't need to. One night, she came home past midnight, heels in her hand, acting like everything was normal. She kissed my cheek without meeting my eyes. "I'm exhausted," she said. "Long day?" I asked. "Yeah," she replied too quickly. That was the first time I stopped asking questions altogether. But I didn't stop watching. When she brought up divorce, it wasn't dramatic. No screaming. No tears. Just a quiet conversation over dinner like she was discussing changing furniture. "I don't think this is working anymore," she said, cutting her food carefully. I remember the sound of the fork against the plate. That small, ordinary noise that somehow marked the end of everything. "I think we should separate," she added. I looked at her for a long moment. "Are you sure?" I asked. "Yes," she said without hesitation. That's when I understood something important. She had already left long before she spoke the words. So I nodded again. "Okay." People think divorce is about fighting to hold on. I learned it's about deciding what matters more, what you can keep, or what you can protect. She wanted the house. It was emotional leverage for her. Proof she won the life we built. The car was newer, flashier. The savings were the easiest target. She didn't ask for much else because she didn't think there was anything else worth fighting for. That was her mistake. Because while she was rewriting the ending in her head, I had already rewritten the structure of the story months before she ever asked for divorce. The house she fought for? It had a mortgage she never fully understood. A variable interest rate I refinanced quietly when she stopped caring about our finances. The value had plateaued, but the debt hadn't. The savings account she split so confidently? It was intentionally consolidated months earlier into separate instruments she didn't track or understand. Legal, documented, completely mine. And the investment account she never once asked about? That was the one she never knew existed. Because I stopped talking about money at home long before I stopped loving her. I didn't do it out of revenge. I did it because I started realizing I might need to survive something she didn't believe she was capable of causing. The real turning point came 2 weeks before the papers were signed. I sat alone in my office late at night, looking at projections that had finally aligned. The startup I had quietly invested in years earlier, back when she called it risky nonsense, was about to be acquired. Not for a small amount. For life-changing money. I remember leaning back in my chair, staring at the screen, thinking not about wealth, but timing. Because by the time she asked for everything, the pieces were already locked in place. When she signed the divorce papers, she looked relieved. Like she had escaped something heavy. "I guess this is it," she said, standing up. "Yeah," I replied. She hesitated for a second, like she expected something more. Anger, pleading, maybe even regret. When she didn't get it, she shrugged. "You'll be fine," she said. Then she walked out. And I let her. 3 months passed quietly. I moved into a smaller apartment. Nothing dramatic. No emotional breakdowns. Just silence and work. Then the acquisition closed. The number that appeared in my account wasn't just large. It was absurd. Enough to erase every loss she thought she had inflicted. Enough to rebuild anything I wanted, anywhere I wanted, without looking back. But that wasn't the part that felt like winning. The real moment came when I got a message from a mutual acquaintance. "She's struggling," it said. Didn't realize the house was costing her so much. She might have to sell. I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty. But because I finally understood something she never did. Winning isn't taking everything. It's knowing what everything is worth before you let it go. A week later, she called me. I almost didn't answer. But I did. Her voice was different. Not angry. Not proud. Just tired. "Can we talk?" she asked. "We already did," I said. "I didn't realize about the mortgage," she admitted. "And the finances. I thought. You thought you took everything," I finished for her. Silence. "I didn't mean for things to end like this," she said quietly. I sat by the window, watching traffic move like nothing had ever changed. "It ended exactly how you wanted it to," I replied. That wasn't cruelty. It was truth. After the call ended, I didn't feel relief, or revenge, or satisfaction. What I felt was clarity. Because the real victory wasn't financial, and it wasn't about outmaneuvering her in a settlement. It was realizing that while she was focused on taking what she thought mattered, I had already built something that didn't depend on her approval, presence, or absence. She took the house, the car, the image of a life she thought defined success. But I kept something far more valuable. Peace. And the ability to start again without looking back at what tried to break me. If there's one thing I learned from all of it, it's this. People don't always notice when they're walking away from something solid. They just assume it will always be there. She assumed I would fight harder. That I would break. That I would beg to keep what we had. Instead, I prepared quietly for a future she never considered. And when she finally realized the cost of everything she took, it was already too late to understand the real loss. Because by then, I had already won. Not against her, but beyond her. And that is the only kind of winning that actually lasts.